What's up everyone, welcome back. Today we're doing something a little different. We're doing a Commander gameplay review. So this is a deck that I've been trying to build for a month or two now. It's Rakdos the Defiler. If you're a fan of the channel, you know that I love Rakdos, and I've been wanting to build some older commanders. And this one caught my eye because it has one of those really tricky symmetrical effects. So let's give Rakdos a read. So it's flying, trample, 7/6, right? Already great stats. Whenever Rakdos the Defiler attacks, sacrifice half the non-demon permanents you control rounded up. So that's a pretty big cost, but whenever Rakdos deals combat damage to a player, that player sacrifices half the non-demon permanents they control rounded up. So something I like about older cards, but Rakdos in specific, is that there's a lot of symmetrical effects, like things that affect both players badly, but since we're building the deck around the card, we can break the symmetry. So this deck tries to have a ton of sacrificable creatures and uses effects to get those creatures back so that we don't feel the effect of the punishment of this card and our opponents do. Just real quick, here's the deck list. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check it out. It's not a finished product yet, but I am getting some wins with it, which is great. It's very close to being done, but the main point of the deck is we have a bunch of things that we can sacrifice. They either, come down and draw us a card so we get their effect immediately and we don't care about them, dying, or they, these enchantments like Dreadhorde Invasion or Bitter Blossom create us tokens every turn. Underworld Hermit gives us a bunch of tokens based on our devotion to black, which most of these cards in the deck are black. It's about 75% black, 25% red. So we have a bunch of sacrificable things so that when we do attack with Rakdos, we have a bunch of things to sacrifice and our opponents usually don't. So this ends up being, we sacrifice stuff that we don't care about and the opponent sacrifices everything but their lands, essentially. And then we can really break the symmetry of this card with some of these win cons, like It That Betrays. So whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. So we have to sacrifice our stuff, but when our opponents sacrifice their things, we gain control of all those things. So now we just restocked all of our permanents, right? And we can do it again and again. Rise of the Dark Realms, get everything back from the graveyard. Grave Betrayal kind of does the same thing. Terragrid does the same thing as It That Betrays. Gisa does it, but with decayed creatures. So they're temporary, but still that's okay with Rakdos. And one of my favorite synergies is Delinea Wild Mage, and that's how I win the game that we're going to show today. So this is a funny card. So basically when Delinea attacks, we get to copy a creature we control. That creature the copy isn't legendary, and it comes into play already tapped and attacking, which means we get around Rakdos's attack clause. Because the token is already attacking, it never actually attacks. It's past that point. So the copy only has the second part of the clause where it makes our opponents sacrifice permanents. So, and then if you roll lucky, if you get a 15 through 20 on this, you get to do it again. And that's what happens in this game. So I won't give it away too much, already more than I did, but this card is a funny card that synergizes really well with Rakdos, so we can get copies of Rakdos and not have to sacrifice more things. So let's get into the game. We're playing on MTGO. This is a gameplay review. Something cool that MTGO does is it saves your gameplay. So we'll just play this real quick, and I'll skip through the boring parts. I'm just going to skip through the first couple turns because it's just people plopping down lands. We kept a hand with Delinea and lands and ramp and card draw. So things you want in Commander. So everyone's just plopping down their lands. Looks like we're going against Aragorn, Massacre Girl, the new one, and Wayata, Trainer Prodigy. Something about creatures fighting. You can make creatures that you control fight. And then it doubles up damage triggers, I guess. So this is one of our sneaky lands. It allows us to get Rakdos into play and immediately give it haste. So it comes into play tapped pretty much no matter what, because we don't have an elemental usually, or I don't even know if we have an elemental in the deck. So just get the tap land out of the way. We already have untapped dual lands. So turn 1 off is not a big deal, especially in Commander, where everyone's kind of taking the first couple turns off just to ramp and get their mana set up. We drew Grave Titan, which is a super good card in this deck. Makes us a bunch of zombies that we can use as fodder for Rakdos, just besides being a giant 6/6 and making us a huge board. And like I said, everyone's just kind of ramping, doing their setup thing. They cast Vampiric Tutor. Something I've personally done recently is taken out all the tutors from my decks. I just don't like playing them in Commander. I feel like it kind of goes against the spirit of the format. You know, it's supposed to be a 100-card singleton, you know, ideally random, right? But when you add in tutors, it kind of takes away the singleton element of it, in my opinion. You know, it's like, here, let me drop my Vampiric, and this guy's probably running more than just Vampiric Tutor, you know, so if they have 5 tutors in their deck, then it makes their deck more consistent, and they can just go get whatever card they need at any time. So while that's really good, of course, I feel like it goes against the spirit of the format, so I've taken all my tutors out. It of course would make my decks better, but I'll even take out like non-basic land tutors, like Expedition Map and stuff like that, because it would be so easy just to go get, you know, a Nykthos or a Field of the Dead or whatever, right? Whatever broken land you need to win the game, and I would much rather draw it naturally. Plus it makes your games, you know, if you play a lot of Commander, it makes your games more unique. Each game is more unique from game to game. If you have a bunch of tutors, all the games start to feel the same because the game plan is the same. Anyway, let me know in the comments how you feel about that. I know people are kind of on the fence about tutors in Commander, but personally, I mean, I don't care if other people play them. You know, that's their call with their decks, but for me and my play experience, I don't really want to run tutors. So we get Delinia down. The reason I cast her early here is because I just see that there's not a ton of creatures on the board, and everyone's ramping, and not all games of Commander go like this, where people just ramp and play lands and don't do anything. Sometimes, you know, by turn 4, some people have big boards, but in this game, there's only 2 other creatures, and this guy is totally empty, so I figured why not get Delinia down while we can. Doesn't seem like anyone's gonna wrath the board, or we have to worry about that with this particular board state. This guy's attacking, yeah. Everyone's gonna attack the open player. It's just kind of how it goes. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, if we can get to the point where we get enough lands, we can give Rakdos haste, we can do the copy thing, right? And that's the dream. So we're gonna see if we can make it happen. Sort of Feast and Famine on the Solemn. Darksteel Plate. I remember I was kind of trying to figure out why this guy had so many equipment in their deck. I was trying to figure out what the goal was. Maybe just to make the Wither better on the Commander. I'm not totally sure. Like, Darksteel Plate's kind of a weird one. I guess it makes their creature indestructible. It's just something you don't see very often unless you're in an equipment deck. Could just be protection for their commander. I mean, the swords give protection too. This one's from black and green, which is decent in this matchup. You know, I'm black, this guy's green. Okay, so now we're at 5 mana. I'm just going to attack the open player, I'm sure, here. Oh no, I attack this guy and send the other copy of this guy. So attack here, the copy goes over here. Treacherous Blessing. This is a fun card in this deck because it's pretty much unplayable in any other deck. But it allows us to draw 3, and then when Rakdos comes down, we can just sacrifice it, and that way we're not taking a ton of damage over the course of the game. So 3 mana, draw 3. It's pretty good. and it gives us something to sacrifice. And then Bitter Blossom, so we can start creating some fairies that we can sacrifice when Rakdos comes down, because right now we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 permanents when Rakdos comes down. So we're gonna have to sack 5 permanents because it's half our permanents rounded up, half our non-demon. So it'd be, since this is a demon, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 4 permanents. So it's not great, but we could sack Delinea after the effect resolves, and then these 3 things. But we're also going to have a Bitter Blossom token, so it's probably going to be that token, Treacherous Blessing, Bitter Blossom, and Rakdos Signet. We also have some other effects like Grave Titan and Lord Skitter that we could get down if we really want to get tokens going, so that we don't have to sacrifice some of our pieces. Skip through these turns real quick. So again, just more and more setup. We're on turn 5 and it's just been a game of a ton of setup. This player left for some reason, I'm not totally sure why. I think because everyone was just punching them. I mean, they're down to 29, but this player's down to 26. But I mean, they put no creatures on the board, and that's just what happens in, at least in online Commander. If you go to a pod in real life, a lot of the times people won't pick on you if you don't have any creatures, unless you have broken enchantments and artifacts, right? But if you're falling behind, generally in real life, people won't pick on you. Maybe they'll send their like 1/1 at you or something because they want to draw a card off their Toski trigger or whatever, but in general, it's not going to be like full swings. But online, I've found that if you don't have a blockers, people are just going to attack you. It's dog eat dog world out here. So I also find online that people scoop if they're not winning. If they feel like their time's better spent get into another game, they'll just leave, which is not something that happens in real life. People stick it out. It's more for the social element. But unfortunately, you know, nothing we can do about this guy just leaving. So now it's a 3-person pod. Makes my Delinea a little easier because I'm going to make a copy. So at bare minimum, I could send 1 Rakdos at one opponent and 1 copy of Rakdos at the other. Okay, upkeep trigger, Bitter Blossom. So do I have enough mana this turn to do Rakdos? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think if I sack something, I do. Okay. I think I went with Grave Titan so that I can make the 2 zombies. And next turn, we're going to go for Rakdos. That way I have some things to sack. Like, I'll have 2 of these tokens, 2 of these tokens. Actually 4, because when Grave Titan attacks, if I stack the triggers right, I'll get 2 more tokens. So I think I went for that, just so I don't have to sack my like Arcane Signet and Bitter Blossom. I'd like to keep these pieces, ideally. But my opponent Banishing Lights my my Grave Titan, so that kind of makes that strategy go out the window. Although I still got 2 zombies, so it's not nothing, but it's not great. So as you can see, this player's board is a lot bigger than this player's board, right? So if we do get a second copy of Rakdos, we're going to send 2 at this player, so they have to sack half their stuff twice, and 1 at this player, because that's still going to make them basically sack everything but their lands. Make some 1/1s. This is basically like Jeskai soldiers. Soldier weenies, and then pump everything, beat people down. And so I get why they got rid of the Grave Titan, because me making a bunch of blockers really kind of turns their deck off. Skitherax, pretty scary in Commander. Has Infect, so you give it double strike here and someone's just dead on the spot. See who they're attacking. So they're double attacking this guy, probably because he has 53 life, and this guy has 16. And I believe most of the reason why he has 16 is because this player's been attacking him relentlessly, especially after this player left. Also, the wither triggers work really well with their tiny creatures if they're blockers, so I get why they attack that way. Although, at 16 life, it's pretty risky to attack. I think on the backswing, this guy would just be dead. Okay, so let's pause right here. I believe this is the turn where I win the game. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We don't, oh, we do have an untapped land, 7. If we sack a creature, we can make 2 mana with Phyrexian Tower. So we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, which is perfect for casting Rakdos, paying the 1 red to give it haste, and doing the Delinea copy. So let's see what happens. Also, a little pet card in this deck is Cauldron of Souls, which I don't see anyone play, but I can give all my creatures persist at instant speed. So, you know, I can sack them with Rakdos and respond to the trigger by giving them persist, and then they all come back. Of course, if they're not tokens, right? So Delinea would come back and none of these would, but still, you know, it can save my non-token creatures, which is pretty cool. So let's play the turn. Blood Crypt untapped. Get my mana right. Double black, double red for Rakdos. Pay 1 for Treacherous Blessing. Definitely want to sacrifice that, so I'm not taking a ton more damage. And then we give it haste. Okay, so now we go to attacks. So we attack. Attack triggers on the stack, right? I guess we'll put the triggers over here. So we have Rakdos' trigger, which is the sacrifice half our non-demon permanence trigger, and the Delinea trigger. So I stack it so that we do the Delinea trigger first, and then the Rakdos trigger. We don't want to sack Delinea. Like, if we have to sack Delinea, it's okay. But this allows us to sack it and still get the copies. If we sacked first, we wouldn't get this effect, I don't believe. Or maybe it's on the stack. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But either way, we want to ensure that we get this trigger, so stacking it like this. Okay, so let's see if I can see the game log. Does it say? Yes, it says I rolled a 16. So what's kind of funny is you can actually go infinite with this if you're really lucky. But Delinea, if you keep hitting 15 through 20s, you can make as many token copies as you want. So it can get pretty nuts. And like I said, the copies, they come in already tapped and attacking, so they don't make us sacrifice again. We only have to do our side of the sacrificing once. So let's see what we sack here. Let me take a guess. These guys, right? So let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are demons, so they don't count. 10, 11, 12, 13. So 13, rounded up. 14, so 7 things. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's what I'm gonna guess, something like that. I don't mind sacking land, like a land or 2 here, because their boards are gonna be completely annihilated. Okay, so I chose to keep the Bitter Blossom, which I think is probably correct, because it keeps making us attackers that have flying, so we can eventually beat down the opponents or use them as blockers. But as you can see, I have 3 Rakdoses here. 1 going at this guy, 1 going at this guy, and then another copy going at this guy. So this guy has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, no. 9. He doesn't own this. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So they're going to have to sack 8 things, and then on the second trigger, they're going to have to sacrifice another 4 things, because it's half each time rounded up. And then this guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, no, that's the Monarch, huh? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Although they're blocking here, so they will have 12. I wouldn't have blocked if I were them. I could have just killed this guy with 16 damage in the air, but they chose to block this guy, which, sure, you know. But in reality, they shouldn't have blocked. It would have given them an extra permanent to sack, but it's all good. So 12, maybe it wouldn't have mattered because of the rounding up, but still. Maybe they wanted to draw a card too. Although they would have if they sacked. I don't know. It's a tough position to be in if you're facing down this. So 12 things. But yeah, basically they have to sack everything but their lands. So let's play it out. I believe this player just scoops. I get the Monarch too. OP. I forgot about that. That's actually really good in this late game board state to be drawing double cards. Although on the backswing they're probably just gonna hit me, but I don't think they're gonna have any creatures left. Down to 8. I think they just realized that they're dead to this guy if they attack, so they have no blockers. So I think they just scoop it up before we get to see them sack. Yeah, they just scoop. So this guy sacked his board, so let's pause it right here. So you can see after sacking half their stuff what they have left. They kept a couple of their creatures, and they, for whatever reason, kept their Banishing Light. To me, that'd be an easy thing to sack. I mean, I know I give my Grave Titan back, but still, like, come on, man. Like, you sacrifice lands over sacrificing your Banishing Light, but I guess it doesn't really matter because there's another trigger on the stack that they got to deal with anyway. Yep. And so now the token copies are getting exiled. Too bad they don't sacrifice. That'd be cool. It would kind of go with the synergy of the deck, but whatever. So, this is what we're left with. So I still have my Rakdos. Of course I went down a lot of permanents. That's kind of the you know, like I said, the negative symmetry of the deck. But look what I did. This guy has one land, a Soul Ring. He's holding on for dear life to this Banishing Light that's keeping my Grave Titan back, and their commander. That's it. That's all they have after a couple copies, right? Delinia ate the dust to the Solemn Simulacrum. I guess this guy chose to block and then dipped, but let's play out an imaginary next turn. I think the opponent just scoops after this, but so next turn we have a land. We have 4 mana. We have good cards in our hand that we can play. Lord Skitter creates a rat every turn, so now we're going to get a rat and a fairy every turn. This guy has basically nothing. It's going to take him like 4 or 5 turns to get anywhere near back to where they were. And that's assuming that the 5 cards in their hand are going to help them do that. So we can get down Lord Skitter. We can play Smothering Abomination, which every time we sacrifice a creature, we draw a card. And then at the beginning of our upkeep, we sacrifice a creature. So we're guaranteed to draw 2 cards a turn for basically the remainder of the game, because we'll have tokens to sack with Bitter Blossom and Lord Skitter. And then as we draw cards, we're going to draw more lands. So we'll easily draw out of this decimated board state on our end, and then we'll just continue to Rakdos them. I mean, and really at this point, what's to stop me? Like, I could rebuild, like I just explained, but what's to stop me from just smacking them with Rakdos over and over again? I mean, do they have anything that they can do to get rid of this? I mean, they basically have to on their next turn, because what they're going to play, hopefully they have a land drop, so they'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe another thing, 6 things, right? If they play something with the mana they have. So then I attack them with Rakdos. They have to sacrifice 3 things. Are they going to sacrifice their lands? No. So they'll probably just keep their lands in the Soul Ring. They'll get rid of all this. I'll get my Grave Titan back, right? And then I can just keep smacking them. And then every time they got to sack half their things, and they're not going to be able to make enough permanents to get out of that hole. They're basically in a black hole. It's just sucking them deeper and deeper, no matter how hard they try to struggle out of it. So that's probably the way I would have gone about it, because that just sounds super fun to me, and that's the whole point of the deck. But if we really wanted to rebuild, we had all the pieces to rebuild out of this too, and then take over the game that way. So either way, the opponent was in a corner. And I'll just play out the rest of the game, but I'm pretty sure they just scoop it up. I think they do something funny, like blow up their own land. Yeah, they generous gift their own land for an elephant. I don't... They must be memeing at this point. Oh yeah, they ended they scoop, so they're just joking around. But yeah, that's the game. So that's pretty incredible, right? I had 3 copies of Rakdos. You know, you can think of the card as essentially like Annihilator half your board. That's really what the card has, and it's because, you know, who's running demons like a lot of demons in their deck. Not very many people. And even if they were, like they were running a demon kindred deck, that would just force them to sacrifice all their non-demons, which is their lands and maybe an artifact or an enchantment. So it's even worse if you're running all demons. So there's really no way around this card. It's just sack half of your stuff and hopefully you get to choose, you know, the stuff that's less important, like, you know, your non-lands. But in a situation like this, if I attack you, you have no choice. You just have to sacrifice, you know, I mean, he has 5 permanents. It's rounded up is still 3. So I mean, if he wanted to keep going, he'd have to sack his commander, this token, and this Banishing Light. I mean, they could sack all their lands if they wanted, but they're out of the game. So anyway, that's the deck. It's super fun. The haste element makes it super playable, and it's nice because I don't have to play my commander. I mean, the deck is, you know, built around getting this card down, but the deck can win without ever playing the commander, which is cool. And that's kind of what you want out of a 6-mana commander. You want it to be like a powerful effect in the mid to late game, and that's what, I mean, this is definitely a powerful effect. I mean, making people sack half their board is pretty insane. So yeah, that's the deck. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do more commander reviews like this. It's really easy with MTGO to get in the replays and show you some of the games that I've played out. So yeah, thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.